Welcome back to the Center Square Daily. I'm your host, Greg Bishop, and let's now put Illinois into focus. Last week, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker took part in the local news summit in Chicago on Friday, and as a guest speaker there, he laid out a variety of things he says the state of Illinois is doing to help members of the media, and he says are shrinking when it comes to local coverage. The governor taking part in that summit after he had already previously had signed legislation to help local news organizations maintain staff through getting tax credits and even some grant dollars. Here's the governor.
When Trump brought the chaos and insanity of Operation Midway Blitz to Chicago, it was our local press corps that brought truth to light. So proud of the work that you did here.
Now, the governor also went on to talk about the law he signed, giving tax credits to local organizations, and he broke out how many of those went to Chicago and how many went to the rest of the states. Again, here's the governor.
The Journalism Sustainability Tax Incentive Program, and in 2025, over $4 million in state tax credits supported 58 Illinois local news entities, benefiting more than 600 journalists that work there. These are news organizations that are spread all across our state, major legacy outlets, small community newspapers, digital startups, and public broadcasters. Half the funding went to news organizations outside of the Chicago metro area. 2/3 went to newsrooms with 6 or fewer journalists. Often, the best journalists are in these very small organizations and doing jack-of-all-trades work to deliver news, real news, and truth to people. And 1/3 of the money of those tax credits went to nonprofit news organizations.
Now, Republican candidate for governor, Darren Bailey, his lieutenant governor, Aaron Delmar, talked with the Center Square's Jim Talamonte to get reaction to the governor praising these local organizations and highlighting how they're getting certain types of tax credits.
I don't think that he's talking about our local media here in Illinois. And again, what he's doing is he's pivoting. He's talking more about on the national level in other states as he tries to audition for a Democratic primary in 2028, which again takes away his time, takes away his focus and his interest on working on the problems that we have here in Illinois. And that seems to be a symptom of his campaign and of his governorship over the last 7 years.
Now, we've got months before the November election and that rematch between Bailey and Pritzker, but Delmar says that the use of these taxpayer grants for these various nonprofit organizations and other news organizations with tax credits, he says that's not the proper use of these because some organizations have a bias.
When you have a lot of these organizations that are taking adversarial positions to be nonpartisan, I don't think that we should be supporting or providing resources out of taxpayer dollars that only show one side of the issue or of the policy. And what you've seen in a lot of the public media, especially here in Chicago and some of the larger liberal cities, is that a lot of these non-for-profit organizations are taking positions. They are reporting the news, not independently, but with a bit of a shadow depending on what their political beliefs are. And if we're going to be supporting media and we're going to be supporting local organizations out of taxpayer dollars, it should be nonpartisan and it should be black and white and not shaded in either direction.
Meanwhile, the governor, when he was addressing members of the media after that event Friday, he was asked about a proposal from Republicans at the State House to address gas taxes, especially as the price of motor fuel continues to be elevated with the ongoing war in Iran. AAA pegging the state's average gas more than $4.40 late last week, up from $3.50 a month earlier. Now, the state's average gas before the U.S. and Israel war began more than a month ago, it was about $3 per gallon. Now, State Representative Ryan Spain last week says that he has House Bill 5738 to pause Illinois' very unique sales tax on gasoline for 6 months.
This bill would institute a 6-month holiday on the sales tax imposed upon gasoline sales throughout our state. Remember, in Illinois, and this is really a uniquely Illinois construct, We imposed a motor fuel tax across the state. That was adjusted 7 years ago now in 2019. But then we imposed a sales tax on top of that motor fuel tax, a tax on a tax. That is something that we do in Illinois, and this bill would put a 6-month pause on that tax to provide immediate relief to working families throughout the state of Illinois. Pausing that sales tax on gasoline would immediately reduce the price of gas at current levels by 20 cents.
Now, that measure not advancing at the State House, but the governor was asked about it on Friday. Here's his response.
I would love to do that. They're the ones who didn't want to do it in 22 when I proposed it and got it passed and said it was some sort of political stunt. And when they take away those dollars, they're taking away dollars that would go to building infrastructure for the state, most of which goes to central and southern Illinois, which is mostly represented by Republicans. So I think they should be thinking twice about what their affordability agenda really is. I've put forward an affordability agenda that's been very clear about how we're going to lower costs for people. And the most important thing we could do is if Donald Trump will end the war in Iran, we can lower gas prices and lower the price of a lot of goods.
Now, Republicans earlier in the week, last week, they said that the Pritzker administration has not been focused on affordability. They say that state's gas tax is among the highest, second in the country, also the highest property taxes and other taxes. Here's again State Representative Ryan Spain and also Republican State Representative Regan Deering.
We know that the state of Illinois is consistently ranked as having the highest overall tax burden in the country. That's according to Wallet Hub. We've now officially surpassed the state of New Jersey for having the highest property taxes of any state in the country.
And the majority can keep talking or we can act. They can continue to shift the blame or we can take on the challenges faced by our constituents and offer real relief and real solutions. We have a responsibility to the people of Illinois, and it's not to make excuses, it's to deliver results.
Now, legislators are off today. They return to the State House Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And they have a May 31st deadline to wrap things up, including a state budget. And we'll be keeping an eye to see what kinds of things they advance to help with affordability in the land of Lincoln. From my studios in Central Illinois, I'm Greg Bishop. You can join us back here Tuesday for more stories impacting you, the taxpayer, from across the country, only with the Center Square Daily.